Current news. The government will conduct an inspection of all energy companies for possible corruption abuses, particularly regarding state procurement. This was announced by the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Yulia Sviridenko. She also stated that today, 1 billion hryvnias will be allocated from the state budget to eliminate the consequences of shelling in the most affected frontline regions.
5 directions. Construction and arrangement of shelters, additional protection for key equipment. Emergency rescue operations, repair of engineering networks, and procurement of fuel reserves. This assistance is intended for 93 communities in the Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, Odessa, Kherson, Sumy, Kharkiv, and Cherkasy regions.
In Sumy, after the Russian attack, air quality is being checked. This was reported by the regional administration. The occupiers struck a drone at the territory of one of the enterprises in the city's industrial district. Materials at the production site caught fire, according to preliminary information. No casualties. While the air quality is being checked, residents have been urged to keep their windows closed, drink more water, and not go outside unless necessary. According to the regional military administration, during the day the occupiers shelled Kharkiv and 4 other settlements in the region. These are Zoloshiv instead of Vorova and Bili Kolodias. In the regional center, a transport company and 10 vehicles were damaged. In addition, windows were shattered in 15 apartment buildings and 5 private residential houses. Nearly 700 strikes were recorded in the frontline territory of Zaporizhzhia region in a single day. In Mykolaiv, a 52-year-old man was injured during a drone attack. We'll learn more details from our correspondent, Inna Hohoya. She is currently live from Zaporizhzhia. Inna, hello. Tell us, what is the situation there?
Hello, Alexander. An air raid alert is currently ongoing in Zaporizhzhia region. In particular, there is also a threat to the regional center, and it was reported that residents of Zaporizhzhia region heard explosions, and as later reported by the regional administration, our air defense was activated. As for the operational situation in the region over the past day, 16 frontline settlements have come under attack during this period. The occupiers used aviation and artillery for the shelling and attacked frontline settlements with drones. In fact, nearly 400 drone strikes have been carried out on towns and villages. In Mykolaiv, an enemy FPV drone wounded a 52-year-old man. He sustained injuries to his limbs and torso. Overall, the situation in Mykolaiv is currently quite difficult. And in fact, the enemy has become more active in the Mykolaiv direction. The Russians are trying to destroy this frontline city and are constantly shelling it. And despite the danger and increased shelling, people still remain living there. The occupiers terrorize them with both drones and various types of weaponry. Currently, about 500,000 people remain in the city. Those who do decide to evacuate are assisted by police officers, rescuers, and volunteers. Overall, evacuation is currently ongoing from other frontline areas as well. And just recently, emergency workers evacuated people from the villages. In the Polohi district, 2 women were evacuated. According to the State Emergency Service, the women asked for help during the distribution of humanitarian aid. And as the pensioners themselves said, they bravely held out and endured until the very end and did not want to leave their beloved homes. However, the increasingly intensified and relentless shelling ultimately forced them to leave against their wishes. The Russians are attacking populated areas with bombs, drones, and, among other things, cluster munitions. According to the State Emergency Service, they transported the women to Zaporizhzhia, and from there, the pensioners plan to travel on to other regions of Ukraine. Let me remind you that, as of now, a mandatory forced evacuation of children has also been announced from 5 settlements in the Zaporizhzhia district. In total, 20 families with 36 children are to be evacuated. That's the current operational situation in Zaporizhzhia region, Alexander.
Inna, thank you for the information. Let me remind you that it was my colleague Inna Hohoyi who told us about the situation in Zaporizhzhia. In Mykolaiv, 6 people were injured as a result of an enemy drone attack. And in Kherson, the Russians are remotely mining the streets. 2 ambulances were blown up there. Our correspondent Yelizaveta Krotik will tell us more about the current situation in the south. She is also live with us in the studio right now. Liza, hello. What news do you have?
Alexander, let me start by saying that there is currently an air raid alert in Mykolaiv region, so I urge all residents of Mykolaiv to take shelter. It has also been reported that enemy drones are currently in the airspace of our region. However, there was an explosion in Mykolaiv this morning. The Russians struck an industrial infrastructure facility, causing a fire that was extinguished by the state emergency service units. As a result of the Shahed drone strike on Mykolaiv's market, 6 people were injured, 3 of whom are in serious condition. This was reported by the head of the regional military administration, Vitaly Kim. Around 11 a.m., the Russians attacked the Dnipro district of Kherson with a drone. A 66-year-old man was injured. The enemy's drone attack also damaged a trolley bus. In the same district, 2 ambulances hit Russian petrol mines. The first one ran over a mine at night while evacuating a patient, and the second in the morning when the crew was responding to a call. Fortunately, no one was injured. In general, Russian anti-personnel mines of the petrol type were found at the very locations in Kherson. The occupiers used them remotely. During demining, a police lieutenant colonel was also injured by an explosion. He was hospitalized with a traumatic foot amputation. This was reported on our broadcast by the head of the regional military administration, Alexander Prokudin.
Yesterday, both critical, transport, social, and residential infrastructure came under attack. In Kherson, 2 people were injured as a result of a Russian drone attack, and 2 more residents of Bilozerka were wounded. A few days ago, they sought medical assistance. All the injured have now been hospitalized. Tragic news has come from Sokorivka, Novohorontsivska community. There, a Russian drone deliberately targeted a man born in 1947. He sustained injuries incompatible with life. My condolences to his family and loved ones. Today, explosions also continue unabated.
In fact, today in Kherson, Russian shelling damaged power lines. Currently, the Korabelny district is partially without electricity. Last day, 39 settlements were under enemy attack. 4 people were injured, 1 person died. An administrative building, 4 high-rise buildings, 11 private houses and cars were damaged. Alexander.
Thank you, Lisa. My colleague Yelizaveta Krotik is monitoring the situation in the southern regions. With strike drones, attack UAVs, and various types of missiles, the defense forces targeted a number of sites in Russia and in temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. They clarified that among the means of attack were Ukrainian-developed systems, Flamingo, Bars, and Lyuty. In temporarily occupied Crimea, the fighters defending Pokrovsk need weapons, including drones. And powerful vehicles are no less important for them. Without them, it's impossible to reach positions, deliver ammunition to the front line, or evacuate the wounded. The drone operators of the 428th Separate Unmanned Systems Battalion Shadow, who are currently holding back the enemy on one of the hottest fronts, are in need of a pickup truck. Our defenders share more details about their needs in a video message.
We wish you strong, unwavering Cossack help. The effectiveness of drone operations depends not only on the skill of our pilots, but also on the means of transportation for our combat crews, especially in the Pokrovsk direction. That is why we are reaching out to you, dear viewers of the United News Telethon. Support our fundraiser for pickup trucks. Thanks to your support, these steel horses, together with our combat drones, will definitely boost the combat effectiveness of our battalion and, without a doubt, bring us all closer to victory. Sincerely yours, the fighters of the 428th Separate Battalion of Unmanned Systems, Shadow. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes.
The European Commission is considering 3 possible ways to finance aid to Ukraine and says the most effective is to use the proceeds from frozen Russian assets. This was stated by the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, during her speech in the European Parliament.
We have 3 options. The first option is to use budgetary space to raise funds on the capital market. The second option is to have an intergovernmental agreement under which member states would independently raise the necessary capital. And the third option is to have a reparations loan. It is based on immobilized Russian assets. This would mean taking the cash balances from immobilized Russian assets and transferring them to Ukraine as a loan. And Ukraine would have to repay this loan if Russia pays reparations. This is the most effective way to support Ukraine's defense and its economy. And this is the clearest way to make Russia understand that time is not on its side.
In Cherkasy, emergency medical workers are teaching law enforcement officers and military personnel how to provide pre-medical aid. This project was launched by the Regional Emergency Center 3 years ago. And during this time, more than 10,000 law enforcement officers have completed the training courses. Now they apply their knowledge not only at the front, but also in everyday life.
What do you think, at which stages after the course will you personally be able to get directly involved?
Paramedic Yevon from the Cherkasy Emergency Service starts every first aid training session with this question. He is not only a practicing doctor, but also a certified instructor. Today, his trainees are court security officers. They listen to their mentor attentively and follow all his instructions.
Okay, speculators me. Yeah, somewhere. Some trots? No,
Otherwise, nothing.
safe.
So the cadets take on the cardiopulmonary resuscitation exercise. They train on a mock-up with special medical equipment to restore breathing. Although it's not necessary to carry such an ambu bag with you, a compact valve film is enough.
1, 2, and the faster we return to compressions, the better. In modern times, people often carry essential first aid kit equipment with them, and among the mandatory items on the list, this valve film is always included.
We also have these available at our service just in case.
Court security officer Yedyni Novyny completed a similar course 3 years ago, but now he decided to refresh his skills and signed up again. He is convinced that in times of war, the skills acquired are important not only on duty, deep.
There have been cases when people felt unwell, and it was exactly the first aid lessons that came in handy for us. That is, it's not about getting some extra certificate, but about acquiring skills that can save someone's life in everyday situations.
We were arranged in such a way so that this strap would be on this side, making it easier to use.
And now the participants are moving on to one of the most important exercises in pre-medical care, stopping bleeding. Almost all of them have already received training from the Cherkasy Emergency Service, yet they still make mistakes.
We press down on the artery through which the blood is flowing. You can do it with one hand or you can use your knee. That is, you need to be sure that the pelvis is not fractured or injured and that this is not a high kinetic trauma.
During the training, instructor Dimitro hurries to correct the trainees so they don't make a mistake at a critical moment. Afterwards, he explains the procedure once again. Unlike medics, both military personnel and law enforcement officers do not provide emergency aid every day. The skills they acquire are not used on a daily basis. And over time, these abilities are forgotten, especially in extreme situations.
Most of them say that in a panic, they can't determine what kind of bleeding it is, and while applying a tourniquet, the tourniquet might not even be necessary, so it's important to practice and hone these skills. It's all about practice.
That's exactly why the emergency aid courses were started, assures the center's director. People not only need to acquire first aid knowledge, but also refresh it from time to time. In the past 3 years, more than 10,000 military personnel, law enforcement officers, and civilians have already attended here. This is
relevant, and I know for sure that we've already received feedback. We know for certain that thanks to these skills, not just 100 lives have been saved. At the moment, the application of these skills is about 50-50. 50% in areas where active combat is taking place, and 50% in peaceful parts of Ukraine where there is no fighting. There are falls from heights, various types of injuries, road accidents, and so on.
That's why medics urge everyone to learn, because it can save not only your life, but also the lives of your loved ones. Stanislav Kukarchuk, Vyacheslav Ramadan. Details on Intermarathon TV channel. United News.
At 6 p.m., stay tuned for the news with Liliana Liagaka, and in just 2 minutes, the broadcast will continue with Irina Bala. Irina, have a great broadcast.
Thank you.